morning or good day. Bonjour, guten Tag, buenos dias, buona giornata, guten Morgen, god Tag. Hope that pronunciation wasn't too bad. My name's Paul Aston, and I'm a painter and a gardener based in Cambridge in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak at your conference. I'd like to talk about a series of paintings I've been working on of people actively stammering. I'll tell you the story about this. It all started during lockdown. I'm in my 50s now, and as I was growing up with a stammer, I had that model in my head that stammering is a shameful thing to have, that it's a failing, that it's a defect. And then I started to engage in a local group of people who stammer in Cambridge, and I was very lucky to meet Patrick Campbell, who co-edited this book called Stammering, Pride and Prejudice with Christopher Constantino and Sam Simpson. And this profoundly changed my whole view of my stammer. It turned the whole thing on its head. And since then, I've been seeing my stammer as a difference and not a defect, and as something to celebrate as part of the diverse nature of the world. I work in a botanic garden, so a lot of my days are spent celebrating the huge, beautiful diversity of plants that are out there, and their richness. And artists like Jerome Ellis have taught me the same way to view my own speech, and to view stammering and other speech differences as part of the diversity of speech in this world, and they add to the richness of that biodiversity. So I got very interested in Sven Christiansen's notion of the stammering aesthetic, which is in this book, and I thought, right, I want to explore what my own stammering aesthetic is. We all have our unique ways of speaking, and I thought, right, I'll try and explore this in paint. So I produced this self-portrait here in lockdown, it took a few weeks, and it came to the end, and I had this celebratory portrait of someone stammering, and I was quite surprised by the whole thing, because this is just not the way I've been taught to view my speech. And I've got an Instagram account, so I posted it online with a bit about my speech, and I got this quite beautiful response back of people really engaging in this. In lockdown, I would go for long walks with my friend Patrick, the author of this book, and so the next portrait that I painted was of Patrick. So here's the portrait that I produced with Patrick Campbell, the author, one of the co-editors of Stammering, Pride and Prejudice. Patrick's an amazing advocate for stammering, and we talked about what this portrait would be like, and it started a series of collaborative portraits where, for me, it's very important that the sitter has it feels in control of how they're portrayed. And so we discussed where he wanted to be portrayed, what he wanted to wear, symbolism in the painting, and we went to a local park and worked up this portrait here. It's very important for Patrick and for me to try to take control as to over as people who stammer of how we are portrayed stammering. So and to be actively engaged in that. So this quote from Patrick here really sums that up. The scene for the portrait is designed by a stammerer, photographed and painted by a stammerer of a stammerer stammering, the stammered gaze. You know, that says it all. Also living in Cambridge at that time was the amazing Ramdeep. He was working on the front line, treating people in hospital with COVID at that time. So he'd have these grueling days at work, and then I would occasionally meet up with him, and we'd go for walks, often with Patrick too, and it would be just lovely being with the two of them and hearing their stammered voices, and yeah, it was such a wonderful, playful time in terms of my voice and hearing their voices. A beautiful time. Ramdeep's an amazing advocate for stammering. He was very actively engaged in stammering groups and stammering circles. I hope you all meet up with him sometime. Hope he's at this presentation now. So after lockdown, the world started to emerge a bit more, and I was able to visit other places apart from Cambridge and meet people actually indoors. Wow. And so the amazing Christine Simpson was next. Christine worked as a librarian for a lot of her life, so has always had this active engagement in books and the literary world. She was often on the front desk in a library, and for a person with a rich, full stammer, what a better way to advocate for stammering than to be in those front desk roles. She's very active in the organisation Stammer in the UK, and is a central organiser of the Stammer Women's Network, and is very interested in women's experiences as a minority in stammering. I think the statistics are 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 people who stammer are women. So my minority in a minority there has got to have an active voice. She's a very strong advocate for feminism and women's rights too, and so in the background of the portrait here you'll see lots of the books have the green, white and purple of the suffrage movement colours in there. I so enjoyed painting this portrait of her. This next collaborative portrait I'd like to show you is of Bhupinder. Bhupinder's another of these powerhouses behind stammering. She's been a teacher, is an amazing advocate for stammering, and she's one of those people that if it needs to be done, she'll just stop and make a thing happen. Like, she found herself in a Coventry with a stammer and feeling quite isolated. So what does she do? Oh, sets up the Coventry Stammering Network, and now there's this huge, rich stammering network in Coventry. It's really exciting meeting these people and seeing what you can do as and the huge advocacy that's going on in stammering. Next up is a portrait of Conor Foran. I don't know how to describe Conor because he does so many things. I think that he himself calls himself a creative, because he's involved in so many things. But his core work, I guess, is in graphic design, and not only has he, not only was he the coordinator and designer of the group that did the stammering pride flag, which I was lucky enough to be a part of, which is represented in this background fabulous swirling space that he's in. But he's also the designer of various typefaces that that read as a person who read as a person who is stammering. So if you're caught on the letter F, the F will extend out, and then if you're repeating the letter F a few times, lots of Fs will be stacked up, and if words get melded together, they get cramped up or expanded according to time and speech. And so you can read a sentence as a person would stammer it, which is an amazing thing. Imagine if you could take this back in time, and say record Henry James and write out his speech as he actually spoke it, and you would have this beautiful flavour of his different way of speaking. I think this is a profoundly beautiful thing that he has done there. Yes. And last but not least is my latest portrait of Jen Lamoureux stammering. Jen is a speech and language therapist and a researcher based in Canada, who I was lucky to meet in at the Stammering Pride conference in London last year, and she's actively interested in ideas of how we can help people to stammer better and not fix their stammer. And this is such an exciting and and refreshing our approach to speech language therapy, a million miles away from the speech and language therapy I had as a child. And she really wanted to explore her background as a person with a stammer and how that fitted in with her childhood and attitudes to herself, and we came up with this rich depiction here. There's lots more on my website that she has written about this, and all of the people who I depicted have written a lot more. So if you're interested, please give me a follow either on Instagram at Paul Aston Painter. I also paint other things too, and I'm a very slow painter, so I produce one or two of these portraits a year, so be patient. There'll be lots of pictures of our flowers and other things in the interim too, so bear with me. Or if you can see the whole lot again at paulastonpainter.com. Thank you very much once again for inviting me to speak at this conference. Have a great time, and enjoy hearing lots of stammering voices during the day. Thank you very much.